April 28, 1945. The rubble-strewn outskirts of Stendal, Germany. The air smells of burnt sugar, damp earth, and death. Sergeant Frank Miller, 29, of the U.S. 83rd Infantry Division, steps over a tangle of telephone wires, his M1 Garand held loosely in one hand. His helmet is askew, and his uniform, usually meticulous, is caked in grime and fatigue. He has been fighting for 300 days since Normandy. He has seen things no man should see. He has watched friends die. He has killed men. Now, the war is collapsing. The German army is a phantom. There are no clear lines. Just chaos. His platoon is sweeping through what used to be a small village, now a skeleton of bombed-out homes. This is the last gasp of Hitler's Germany. But the dying is messy. Starvation. Despair. And a new, terrifying reality. They find them in a makeshift, barbed wire enclosure behind a half-destroyed factory. Hundreds of them. German prisoners of war. Not the hardened Waffen-SS, but the Volkssturm old men, boys in too large uniforms, and women. So many women. The conditions are unspeakable. They are starving. They are ill. Their faces are gaunt, their eyes wide with a mixture of terror and utter exhaustion. They are just trying to survive the surrender. Miller's platoon has seen it all. They've liberated concentration camps. They've seen the death pits. Compassion, in these final days, is a luxury. Their orders are clear: secure the POWs, move them to the holding camps. Don't engage. Don't linger. But then he sees her. She is huddled against a brick wall, her knees drawn up to her chest, her face almost entirely obscured by a tangle of matted, dark hair. She is impossibly thin, almost skeletal. Her uniform, if it ever was one, is just rags. She is not much older than his kid sister. Maybe 20. Maybe younger. She looks up. Her eyes are not wild with fear, but dull, vacant. Empty. The eyes of someone who has simply given up. The eyes of a ghost. A young private next to Miller mutters, "Jesus, Sarge. They're all skin and bones." Miller doesn't respond. He just stands there, staring. He sees the utter hopelessness in her gaze, a hopelessness so profound it transcends enemy lines. This isn't a soldier. This is a victim. A flash of movement. A German guard, an older man with a desperate look in his eye, tries to escape. He pushes past some prisoners. Miller's M1 is up, pointed. The German freezes. Miller just waves him over to the growing pile of surrendered weapons. No shots fired. No heroics. Just exhaustion. He looks back at the woman. She hasn't moved. She's just waiting. For whatever the war has left for her. Miller makes a decision. A selfish one. A desperate one. A decision that will haunt him, and her, for the rest of their lives. He walks over to her, his heavy combat boots crunching on the debris. He stops in front of her. He holds out his hand. He has no German. She looks at his outstretched hand as if it's a snake. He tries again. He gestures to himself. American. Then he points to her. You. She still doesn't move. Her eyes are still empty. He kneels down. He reaches into his rucksack. He pulls out half a deer ration chocolate bar, precious and rich with calories. He breaks off a piece and holds it out. Her eyes, for the first time, flicker with something other than vacancy. Hunger. She slowly, tentatively, reaches out a skeletal hand. Her fingers brush his. Her touch is ice cold. She takes the chocolate. She eats it, slowly, deliberately, as if it's the last food she'll ever taste. Miller stands up. He looks at his platoon sergeant, who is organizing the other POWs. The sergeant catches his eye, raises an eyebrow, and gives an imperceptible shake of his head. Don't get involved. Don't do anything stupid. Miller ignores him. He gestures to the woman, then to himself. He says the words in English, words that could be a promise, a threat, or a desperate plea for connection in a world that has lost all meaning. You're mine now. The words mean nothing to her. She does not speak English. Her name is Ilse, and her world has shrunk to the molecules of the chocolate melting on her tongue. It is the first sweet thing she has tasted in a year. It is an anchor. but she understands the tone. In the past months, as the Reich collapsed, she has been prey. She has been hunted by her own side, forced into a uniform she never wanted. She has been hunted by the Russians from the east, whose reputation preceded them in whispers of brutal, systemic rape. And now, the Americans. She has learned that men's voices, in these final days, mean one of two things, violence or indifference. This American's voice is neither. It is not kind. It is not gentle. It is possessive. It's a low, gravelly sound of fact. It's the sound of a man staking a claim, the way a soldier might claim a dropped lugger or a bottle of abandoned wine. In this new, brutal currency of survival, being claimed by one man might be the only shield from being taken by many. It is a terrifying, sickening, and, for the first time in days, a faintly hopeful thought. Sergeant Frank Miller doesn't wait for her to stand. He grabs her by the arm, his grip hard, impersonal, a soldier's grip, and pulls her to her feet. She is weightless, a collection of sticks. She stumbles, her vision swimming. He doesn't catch her so much as hold her up, keeping her from collapsing back into the filth. The act does not go unnoticed. Sarge. What the hell? It's his platoon sergeant, Top Riley, a man who lives and breathes by the articles of war. He storms over, his face a mask of cold fury. You know the rules, Miller. General Ike's orders. Non-fraternization. It's posted in every goddamn latrine from here to Cherbourg. She's sick, Top, Miller says, his voice flat, not looking at Riley, but at the girl. He hasn't let go of her arm. They're all sick. Riley spits, gesturing to the hundreds of other skeletal figures being herded by the rest of the platoon. She's a crowd. A prisoner. She goes in the cage with the others. You want to lose your stripes, your pay, and get sent to a disciplinary battalion over that. She won't make it to the cage, Miller says. It's a simple statement. A fact. Then she doesn't make it? That is not your goddamn problem. Riley is shouting now. Other GIs are watching, some with curiosity, some with a dark, leering interest. They see the young woman, and despite the filth, they see woman. Miller sees them looking. And in that instant, the true, chilling meaning of his words "you're mine" now becomes clear. It was not a threat to her. It was a warning to everyone else. It was a crude, possessive, and desperate act of protection. In a world without rules, he had just drawn a savage, arbitrary line. He was not a savior. He was a claimant. He was shielding her from the casual, brutal predation of the victors. I'm taking her to the aid station, Miller says, his voice dropping, his eyes finally meeting Riley's. It's not a request. Riley looks at Miller. He sees the insubordination. He sees the exhaustion. He sees the 1,000-yard stare that says this man is close to breaking. And he sees the other GIs. He knows what happens. He knows what could happen. You're a damn fool, Miller, Riley snarls, his voice low. You get her there, you dump her. She is not your responsibility. You are not her knight in shining armor. You do not go back for her. You understand me? You dump her and you are done. He turns away, disgusted. Get moving. This ain't a goddamn sightseeing tour. Miller, without another word, begins half carrying, half dragging Ilse through the rubble, away from the column of prisoners. She stumbles, her bare feet cut and bleeding. He doesn't speak. He just pulls her along. They reach the battalion aid station, a massive tent in a muddy field, humming with the sound of a generator. It's a butcher shop. Wounded GIs are on stretchers, screaming, dying. The ground is soaked in blood and morphine. A tired, overworked army nurse, Lieutenant Davis, her sleeves rolled up, her arms stained red to the elbows, intercepts him at the flap. What's this, Sergeant? She demands, her eyes hard. We don't treat POWs. The cage has its own medics. She has information, ma'am, Miller lies, the words clumsy. She was a signals operator. Speaks English. But, she's no good to G2 like this. She's dehydrated. Davis looks from Miller's hard face to Ilse's vacant, terrified eyes. She sees the girl's skeletal frame. She knows, instantly, that this is a lie. She knows exactly what this is. She's seen it before. GIs, drunk on victory, picking up souvenirs. Fine, Davis says, her voice dripping with contempt. Put her in that corner. Out of my way. She gets 1 cot, 1 ration, and 1 liter of saline. Then, Sergeant, you get the hell out of my tent. And when she's stable, she goes to the POW cage where she belongs. She is not your goddamn pet. Miller nods, his face impassive. He guides Ilse to the cot. He hasn't saved her. He has just transferred her. He has put his mark on her. And in doing so, he has tied his fate to hers, in a way that violates every rule of war and occupation. The aid station is a factory of controlled chaos. The air is thick with the metallic tang of blood, steam, and Lysol. Every few minutes, a surgeon's bone saw buzzes, a sound that cuts through the chorus of groans. Ilse is on the cot, a ghost in the machine. The needle in her arm is a cold miracle, the saline dripping life back into her veins, 1 icy drop at a time. It hurts. The returning awareness is an agony. She is no longer numb. She is present. And she watches Frank Miller. He is a man who has made a terrible mistake. He's standing near the tent flap, his M1 slung, a pariah in this world of white-gowned medics. He is a combat soldier, an infantryman. He is out of place, an awkward, dirty smudge against the canvas. Every instinct, every order, every rule in his soldier's handbook is screaming at him to leave. To rejoin his platoon. To forget the girl. Top Riley's warning, you dump her and you are done, echoes in his head. Lieutenant Davis, the nurse, is pointedly ignoring him, her contempt a palpable force field. He should be 20 miles from here by nightfall, hunting the last vestiges of the Wehrmacht. Instead, he is anchored to a cot by an impulsive, 5-word claim. Ilse sees him. He's not a savior. He's a guard. He's pacing, trapped. He's not protecting her from the war, he's protecting her from his own army. The tension breaks. A jeep, marked with the white circle and line of the military police, skids to a stop in the mud outside. A tall, clean-shaven MP captain, his helmet polished, his .45 holstered high and tight, strides into the tent. He's not here for the wounded. He's here for the rules. Lieutenant, he nods crisply to Davis. Doing a check on POW processing. Got a report of irregularities. Unescorted prisoners. His eyes scan the tent. They pass the bleeding GIs, the exhausted surgeons, and land, like magnets, on Frank Miller and the small, female figure on the cot. Sergeant, the captain's voice is iron. On your feet. What in the hell is this? Miller snaps to a rigid, terrified attention. This is it. The court-martial. The disciplinary battalion. He has been caught red-handed, violating the most sacred order of the European theater, non-fraternization. Sir, Miller's voice is dry, cracking. He can't use the signals lie, this man is an MP, not a medic. He'll ask for paperwork. Before he can speak, Lieutenant Davis steps in, wiping her bloody hands on a towel. He's with me, Captain, she says, her voice flat. Miller, the MP, and even Ilse, who understands none of the words, are stunned into silence. This is the asset G2 called about, Davis lies, her voice dripping with boredom and authority. The one with the urgent intelligence on the Elba crossings. She's useless to them, half dead. I'm stabilizing her. This sergeant, she jerks her chin at Miller, is her escort. He's not to leave her side until the G2 team gets here at 1800. Now, unless you plan on contravening a direct intelligence order, Captain, you're in my light. She has, in one cold, brilliant performance, saved him. And doomed him. The MP captain glares at Miller, then at Ilse. He looks at Davis. He hates G2. He hates their assets and their secretive, rule-bending operations. But he cannot challenge it. 1800, he says, his voice tight. See that you have her processed by then, Lieutenant. And, Sergeant, clean yourself up. You look like a damn farmer. The captain pivots and is gone. A profound, sickening silence descends. Miller lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He looks at Lieutenant Davis. Her face is hard. G2 is not coming, Sergeant, she says, her voice a low, furious whisper. That was your one get out of jail free card. You have until 1800 to make this woman, your asset, disappear. If she is here when that MP swings back, I will personally testify that I have never seen you, or her, before in my life. You've got, she checks her watch, 3 hours. Now get her the hell out of my hospital. Miller looks at Ilse. She is no longer a starving girl he pitied. She is a piece of contraband. She is a lie he must make true. She is a potential prison sentence. You're mine now, he had said. He had no idea how right he was. He was not her savior. He was her accomplice. 3 hours. The clock on the tent wall, splattered with a dark, unidentifiable stain, is a tyrant. 1510 Frank Miller is no longer an infantryman. He is a criminal, and his crime is sitting on a cot, watching him with eyes that are just beginning to show terror instead of vacancy. The saline, the life he demanded be put back in her, has made her aware. And aware is dangerous. He can't take her to the POW cage, that's where the MP is heading. He can't leave her here. Lieutenant Davis has made it clear she will sacrifice him to save her hospital. He can't rejoin his platoon. Top Riley would arrest him on sight. He is, in military terms, utterly foobar. He grabs Ilse's arm. Harder this time. The flicker of compassion he felt at the factory is long gone, burned away by pure, animal panic. He is not saving her. He is moving a piece of evidence. Come, he growls, a word he's picked up. Come. He pulls her off the cot. She's weak, the needle prick in her arm bleeding slightly. He doesn't care. He yanks her toward the back flap of the tent, the one used for dumping bloody rags and amputated limbs. He pushes her out into the cold, gray afternoon. The village is a skeleton. The war has moved on, but the smell of it lingers. He needs to make her disappear. But not, disappear. The thought flashes in his mind, a dark, final solution in a land where life is cheap. He shoves it down. He's not a monster. He's just, a fool. He finds a street that is little more than a canyon of rubble. He needs civilian clothes. Her Luftwaffe Helferin, Air Force helper, uniform is a death sentence, a target, and a marker of his crime. He spots a bombed-out Gasthaus, a tavern, its front wall gone. He shoves her inside, into the darkness. Klamotten, he hisses. Clothes. He gestures at her uniform, then at the wreckage. She is terrified. She thinks this is it. This is the moment the claim is cashed. The soldier, his face a mask of sweat and grime, his eyes darting to the street every second, looks like a cornered animal. She spots a wardrobe, miraculously intact, blown into a corner. She fumbles with the door. Inside are the clothes of the innkeeper's wife. A simple, dark wool skirt. A blouse. A heavy shawl. They are clothes for a woman twice her size, but they are not a uniform. Schnell, he barks. Fast. He turns his back. A gesture that, in any other context, might be modesty. Here, it is purely tactical. He is watching the street. He hears her fumbling, the sound of rags dropping, the rustle of new cloth. Fertig, her voice is a whisper. Done. He turns. The transformation is shocking. The skeletal girl in the uniform is gone. In her place is a ghost. A refugee. A civilian. One of thousands. She is, in a word, anonymous. This is his chance. He can lose her. He grabs her arm again, pulling her back into the street. He moves fast. He knows what he's looking for. Every bombed German town has one, a Luftschützkeller. An air raid shelter. A cellar where the non-combatants, the old women, the children, the real civilians, are hiding. He finds one under a collapsed bakery. He hears a child crying. He stops. This is the spot. This is the dumping ground. He wrenches the heavy wooden door open. The smell of unwashed bodies, stale bread, and fear hits him. 3 faces: an old woman, a younger woman, a small boy look up, their eyes wide with terror at the sight of the armed American soldier. Miller doesn't say a word. He shoves Ilse forward, down the steps. She stumbles, falling to her knees on the damp earth floor. The women in the cellar stare at her. They see her. The fine-boned face, the terror, the ill-fitting, but clean, civilian clothes. They see the American soldier at the top of the stairs, silhouetted, his rifle a black line. They understand exactly what this is. She is his Trossfrau. His camp follower. His prize. And he is dumping her. A look of cold, hard contempt passes over the old woman's face. Contempt for Ilse. Miller sees it. And he doesn't care. He is cutting the cord. He unslings his pack. His hand closes on his last sear rations, the can of pork and beans. He pulls out his remaining deer rations. A pack of Chesterfield cigarettes. His Zippo. He throws it all down the stairs. The cans clatter on the stone. It's not a gift. It's a payment. It's severance. It's the price for his own freedom. He looks at Ilse, her face a mask of confusion, terror, and now, a new, dawning shame. You're mine now, he had said. It was a lie. She was never his. She was just, his problem. He slams the cellar door, plunging them into darkness. He doesn't run. He walks, fast, back toward the main road, back toward the sound of engines. He doesn't look back. He finds a 6x6 truck idling, a replacement driver from a different company, lost. Which way to the 83 RD? Miller asks, climbing in. Hop in, bud. We're all going to Berlin, ain't we? As the truck rumbles past the aid station, Miller sinks down. He sees the MP's jeep, parked exactly where it was. The captain is arguing with Lieutenant Davis. Miller is just another grunt in a truck, invisible, disappearing into the vast, anonymous machine of the U.S. Army. He is free. And he has left Ilse in a new kind of prison. The cellar is a tomb. The slam of the heavy door plunges Ilse into a darkness so complete, it feels solid. The only light is the sliver under the door. The only sound is the truck's engine, fading, taking her last, desperate, complicated hope with it. Then, the breathing. The child's whimper. And the voice. The old woman's, in harsh, sibilant German. Soldatenhure. Soldier's whore. The word is a physical blow, more violent than any push or shove from Miller. The younger woman strikes a match. Her face, in the brief, flickering light, is etched with pure contempt. The match illuminates the pile of rations Miller threw. The sear rations. The chocolate. The cigarettes. In this world of starvation, he has just given Ilse a dowry. And in doing so, he has signed her social death warrant. The younger woman lunges for the chocolate. Ilse, on pure, animal instinct, scrambles, grabbing the can of pork and beans. She is skeletal, but she is a survivor. She is not a refugee to them. She is not a fellow victim. She is a collaborator, a Trossfrau who was not loyal enough, or good enough, to be kept. She is the lowest of the low. And she has the food. A new, savage war begins in the darkness. A war of scratches, hisses, and desperate, starving strength, fought over a can of beans. She is no longer just a POW. She is an outcast, abandoned by her conqueror to be preyed upon by her own. May 8, 1945. VE Day. Frank Miller is drunk. Gloriously, filthily drunk. He is in a liberated town in Austria, his division having pushed south. The war is over. He has fired his M1 in anger for the last time. He and the survivors of his platoon are screaming, cheering, firing their guns at the sky, and kissing French girls they've liberated, the non-fraternization rule dissolving in a tidal wave of victory and Calvados. He has survived. His stripes are intact. The MP captain, the aid station, it's a dream. A bad one, from another life. But the war machine does not simply stop. It transforms. Miller's combat points aren't enough to get him on the first boat home. He's not going to the Pacific. He's too experienced. He is, to his disgust, promoted. Staff Sergeant Miller. And he is transferred to the new military government. His new job is not to kill Germans. It is to manage them. Summer, 1945. A dusty, makeshift office in a Burgermeister's office, Bavarian district. Miller is no longer a combat grunt. He is an occupier. He is a god. He signs papers that grant ration cards. He signs papers that approve travel. He signs papers that can, and do, condemn men to forced labor for their Nazi affiliations. And he cannot sleep. In the chaos of combat, his actions at Stendal were just survival. A panic move. A necessary severance. But now, in the quiet, orderly, boring daylight of the occupation, the act festers. He sees her face. The vacant eyes. The moment he'd shoved her down those stairs. He hadn't saved her. He hadn't even been a good captor. He had used her as an excuse for his own panic, and then thrown her to the wolves, his payment the food, the very thing that would make her a target. The phrase, "You're mine now," which had been a protective claim, then a panicked lie, it has become a haunting. It is an unsettled debt. It is a question, a hook, that he cannot get out of his own mind. He, who now sits in judgment of an entire town, is the one man who knows he is a moral coward. He has to know. He has to see. He pulls a jeep from the motor pool. He requisitions extra gas. He tells his co he's checking on a G2 report of a werewolf stay-behind unit. He is lying. He is always lying about her. He drives all night, crossing 2 occupation zones, back to Stendal, back to the edge of what is now the Soviet zone. The village is different. It's a massive, teeming displaced persons camp, run by the UNRWA. The streets are a sea of refugees from the east. The bakery is a ruin, but the cellar door is still there. He finds the old woman. She's in a line for Delo using powder. He recognizes her instantly. He gets the camp interpreter, a young Polish man. "Ask her," Miller says, his voice dry. "Ask her about the girl. The one in the cellar. April. An American soldier." The interpreter asks. The old woman's eyes, old and dead, flick up. She recognizes Miller. Her face doesn't change, but her lip curls. She spits on the ground, a thick, yellow glob. She says a few harsh words in German. The interpreter looks at Miller, uncomfortable. She says, "The soldier's whore. What happened to her?" Miller demands, his voice rising. The old woman speaks again. Longer this time. The interpreter pales. "Sir," she says, "you left her. And the Russians came. The next day. This was the line. The Americans pulled back. The Russians, they took the village. They were here for a week. Before the Americans came back." Miller's blood turns to ice. He had dumped her. He had fed her. And then, he had, in his ignorance, in his desperate, selfish panic, abandoned her to them. The one thing she, and every German woman, feared more than death itself. "You're mine now," he'd said. It wasn't a claim. It wasn't a lie. It was a curse. And now, he has to find her. He has to know. He has to find a ghost. The search is a bureaucratic nightmare, a new kind of war fought with paper and ink. Frank Miller, the combat sergeant, is now an administrator in the U.S. military government of Germany. He has power. He can requisition a jeep, sign travel papers, demand access to records. And he is using all of it in a private, obsessive quest. He returns to Stendal. The village is unrecognizable, now the center of a sprawling displaced persons camp, managed by the UNRWA. The air is a babble of languages: Polish, Latvian, Czech, Russian, a sea of human misery, all documented in triplicate. He is looking for a ghost. He has no last name. He has a first name, Ilse, and a date. He is one man trying to find one drop of water in an ocean of the displaced. The UNRWA workers, exhausted, overworked volunteers, are indifferent. A German girl, sergeant, a Belgian nurse asks, not even looking up from her ledger. "Named Ilse? Do you know how many Ilses there are? Starving. Violated. You are looking for everyone." But Miller is not just any GI. He is an occupier. He flashes his military government credentials. He doesn't ask. He demands. He seizes the ledgers for the aid station, the local Krankenhaus, the POW transit logs, the DP intake forms. He spends days in a musty tent, his fingers black with ink, scanning lists of the dead, the living, the transferred. The sheer scale of the suffering is anonymous, numbing. And then he finds it. It's not in the death logs. It's in a special transfer ledger, one marked with a stark red M. Medicines. Medical. But below it, A handwritten note, Moralist Gefähr. Morals case. Brenner, Ils. 19 admitted to U.S. aid station, April 28 transferred to Soviet authority, May 1 readmitted to U.S. custody, May 9 diagnosis, malnutrition, exposure, Krankheit. Venereal disease. Disposition, transferred to Camp 119. Camp 119. He knows it. It's not a DP camp. It's not a POW camp. It's a pen, a barbed wire enclosure on the edge of the zone where the army corrals the Frau and the prostitutes, the camp followers, the women who have fraternized too openly, the ones deemed a threat to the moral hygiene of the U.S. Army. He had thrown her into a cellar with 2 other women. The old woman's curse sold at 10 here had become a medical diagnosis. He drives the 60 miles to Camp 119. This time, there are no combat troops. Just MPs and army medics. It's a clean, cold, administrative hell. He finds her sitting on a dello-using bench, wrapped in a gray U.S. Army blanket, her hair shorn. She is not the skeletal ghost. She is not the terrified victim. The saline, the rations, they have put weight back on her. But her eyes are the ones he saw in the factory. Utterly, terrifyingly empty. The void he saw from starvation has been refilled with something far worse, knowledge. He walks up to her. He is the only man in the compound not wearing a white coat or an MP's armband. He is just Frank Miller. Ils. She looks up. Her face is impassive. She does not flinch. She does not cry. She simply looks at him. You, she says. Her voice is a dry rasp. But the words are English. Broken, but clear. Learned in the 6 weeks since he left her. The chocolate. You are Sergeant Miller. He flinches. His name, from her lips, sounds like an indictment. I came back, he stammers. I had to know. Know what? She asks, her gaze flat. You left. The women in the cellar. They took the food. They beat me. For the chocolate. She pauses, her eyes drifting to the barbed wire. Then, the Russians. They heard the women. They liked me. I was new. Miller's stomach clenches. He feels the bile rise in his throat. And now, she continues, her voice devoid of all emotion, the Americans. Your doctors. Your penicillin. You are all very clean. Ils, he says, his voice desperate. I can get you out of here. I have papers. I'm with the military government. I can say you're my translator. She laughs. It is the most terrible sound he has ever heard. A short, dry, bark. You're what? You're mine, she says, the word mine dripping with a venom that chills him to the bone. You want to claim me again, Sergeant. She stands up, clutching the gray blanket. No. No more. You, go. You are, done. She turns her back on him. She walks away, joining a line of other women with shorn hair, all wrapped in the same gray blankets, all with the same empty eyes. Frank Miller, the victor, the conqueror, the man who held the power of life and death, stands frozen. He had come back to settle a debt, to clear his conscience. He thought he was the one who held the claim. But the chilling truth was the reverse. You're mine now, he had said. It was a prophecy. He had not captured her. She had captured him. He would walk away, he would go home, he would live his life. But he would never be free. He was hers, a prisoner for life, chained to the ghost he had created, the woman he had saved by marking her for a destruction worse than death.